little buns, it is Steph. Welcome back to my home. I have some spooky shit to share with you today. Normally, I talk about, lovely things, wonderful things, and, the wonderful things that are happening, but this is gonna be spooky. So if you are easily frightened, or if you are experiencing sleep paralysis regularly and it's something you don't wanna really hear about from somebody else, then maybe don't watch this video. I'm going to start off by explaining what sleep paralysis actually is. I don't know. Well, okay, the science behind understanding sleep paralysis is very limited. Basically, doctors have decided that it just means you're stressed, and that's it. And that's kind of a shitty excuse. Like, a lot of health problems and a lot of mental health issues are blamed on, you're just stressed, lose some weight or something, and it just doesn't feel like that's a really good understanding of it. There's not a lot of material to understand it, but there's a lot of people who have very similar experiences all over the world. They see the same things, and I think that's really interesting. So, sleep paralysis is caused, I don't know if it's caused by too much melatonin or something, because I take melatonin to go to sleep sometimes, and I don't experience sleep paralysis when I do that. But I have experienced sleep paralysis twice, and it has always been after I have been up for a long time and then I go to sleep. And it always happens when I'm waking up. And what happens in sleep paralysis is usually, and I mean, sometimes it happens when you're going to sleep, but for me it happens when I wake up, and you wake up, your eyes open, you can't move your body. It feels like every part of your body is 1,000 pounds, like you're resisting a lot of force, and you can try to talk and open your mouth, but it's physically impossible. It just feels like everything's being held shut by like clamps and weight. And so for a lot of people, this makes them feel like they're being attacked by something. A lot of people who are religious believe they're being attacked by demons. A lot of people who are very, supernatural and avid in that thing, they usually think that maybe it's a ghost or something, or a lot of alien abduction stories are also kind of centered around, I believe, sleep paralysis, because it really feels like something is holding you down and you hallucinate, okay? You see things. And that doesn't mean necessarily that these things are not real. It doesn't mean that they are real. There's a lot of different beliefs around sleep paralysis. Some people take it very seriously and see it almost as like a visitation, and they think it's very important to understand. Some people think it's literally just a physiological response to not sleeping enough. So whatever you believe, I'm not gonna discourage that. I just wanna tell you about my experience. But first I need some wine. Amazing. My first experience happened, I was visiting my parents. I was home visiting my parents. I live in Toronto, and my parents live in a very small town. So I was visiting them. I had never heard of sleep paralysis at this point. I had no idea it existed, not a clue. And I remember what I usually did when I would go to visit my parents is I booked the earliest train possible, because it's always the least busy and it's the cheapest tickets. So I usually would stay up all night, leave my house at like 5 in the morning, and get on the train and go at like 6. And I did that. And then when I got to my parents' house around like 11 o'clock in the morning, I would just go to sleep and nap for a couple hours before family would come and visit or something. And I was waking up from this nap, and I was sleeping in a way where I usually slept on my side, and then I kind of cuddle into things. Like, I have a body pillow in my apartment that I just cuddle into like it's a person, because I'm lonely and stuff. So my eyes were kind of into a pillow. It was down, so I couldn't see the room. Thank God. Because what happens when you can see the room is it looks like they're in the room with you, okay? If you're not getting scared yet, like, good, because it gets spookier. So this experience, the scariest thing about this experience was not what I was seeing, it was how I felt, because I didn't understand sleep paralysis. I thought I was having a stroke or a seizure or something. I had no idea what it was. So I was laying there in bed, I woke up, and I felt really tired. I felt very heavy. I didn't bother moving because I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I just didn't give a shit. Then, because I was laying down, I couldn't see anything that fit into the room. So I just started seeing almost like a projection, like a projector image, like in a round circle. It was a man in a hat, and he would open a door, and a silhouette would be there. He'd step through, and then the door would close. And it happened over and over again on loop. And I was really confused why I was seeing this. I was seeing something that wasn't there, or that I thought wasn't there. And I was shocked. And then I realized I couldn't move, because I was gonna get up and be like, what the fuck? What the fuck? But I couldn't move. I realized I couldn't move because it felt like something was laying on me. It felt like something was on my back holding me down, and I couldn't move. And that was scary, because that's when I was like, okay. That's when I started thinking like, okay, ghosts and shit. Because it's a small town, old buildings, creepy history. Canada's built on the genocide of, a lot of people. So like, I was like, okay, there's some shit happening to me. And at the same time, I was thinking seizure or stroke, because I didn't know what those felt like. But it felt like I had no control of my body. So I tried screaming for my mom because like, mommy, hi, help me, right? And she worked from home, so she'd be there. And I couldn't. It was like I was trying to open my mouth and all I could manage was like, and I could get like a little bit of air out, but there was no sound. And it was like, okay, like I'm gonna die. And I wasn't in any pain. I felt no pain, but I felt it was hard to breathe. And there is epilepsy in my family, so it wasn't like unfounded that I'd be having a seizure. Eventually it passed. Like I was struggling because I didn't understand what it was, and eventually it just stopped. And I was like, okay, what the fuck? Because I was trying the whole time to move my body in every way. I was wrenching around and I could, but like me putting as much force as I possibly could would move me about that much. It was that much movement, and it was all the force I could muster. So it was like, what the fuck just happened to me? I honestly thought I was visited by a spirit because like, I didn't understand what else it could possibly be. I was being held down and I was seeing a man in a hat. Like, okay, I had no idea. So I looked it up. I was like, sleep, can't move, visions, or something like that. And I found sleep paralysis very quickly, and I did a lot of research, I read a lot, and I understood that this is an experience people all over the world have, and they all see very similar things. Sometimes people will see dead relatives, sometimes people will see aliens. Like, it's always a different kind of interpretation, but there's two figures that appear in every culture, in every part of the world, and that's the Shadow Man and the Hat Man. This is the fucked up. This is what makes me, I almost feel like it's not physiological because of these things. Because like, there's no way every culture in every part of the world could see the same things when they go to sleep. It just doesn't feel, it's like the pyramids. Like, I don't understand. I don't get it. So the Shadow Man is literally, it looks like somebody wearing a morph suit that's black, but it doesn't look like it's fabric. It looks like it's just shadow. Three-dimensional shadow, you can't see through it. It's just like a shadow came out of the ground and was walking. The second one's the Hat Man, which is the same kind of figure, but it's wearing a hat. And that's about it. And the one that I saw the first time was the Hat Man, because it was a guy in a hat, open the door, close it, and it was just his silhouette was a black figure. And because I was laying into the pillow, I didn't see him in the room. The second time this happened, oh my gosh. I don't think I was sleep deprived necessarily, but I was up late the night before and I slept in late. So I woke up a little bit around like, I don't know, 9 a.m. and I was like, I don't have anything to do today. I'm gonna go back to bed just for a little bit, just to like chill out. And then I woke up again around 11 or 12. My whole room was bright. My bed was next to a window, so there was a whole bunch of light coming in the room, and I'm very thankful for that, because if this happened in the dark, I probably would have died from shock. Okay, it was spooky. At this point, I understood what sleep paralysis was. I understood what it felt like. I understood how to deal with it. So when I woke up and I realized I couldn't move, I was like, okay, don't struggle. And at this point in my life, I kind of had an interest in like the idea of other dimensions and spirits and stuff, and I was like, okay, let me just listen. I'm gonna just experience this, not struggle. I'm not gonna try to escape it. I'm just gonna listen. I'm gonna focus on my breathing and I'm gonna listen. And then I see the Shadow Man in my apartment, and I live in a studio, so like I could see the entire apartment from where my bed was, because I was laying kind of like down like this at the back end of my apartment, and I could see the whole room in front of me. So I saw the Shadow Man. He kind of was just by he was over the side of the room, and he came kind of walking towards me, and I was like, okay, you know what? That's too spooky. I'm gonna close my eyes. It was just a walking shadow. It was like a shadow came out of the ground and was a living thing. But because it was broad daylight and my room's all bright colors, it didn't feel scary. And because I understood that this wasn't a malicious, like I understood that I couldn't get hurt as long as I was breathing. So I was like, okay, I'm not scared. So I closed my eyes and I listened, and that's when the screaming started. And that, girl, I didn't even think it was scary until recently when I read about some other shit. Okay, I'll explain that later. But I was like, okay, I'm hearing this screaming. Let me listen for some words in it, because maybe there's words that I can make out. I can pick out a specific voice or a specific thing. It sounded like hell. It sounded like people were screaming bloody murder. They were being ripped apart. It sounded like horrifying, awful screaming, like the sounds of hell. That's like, there's no other way to describe that. And Lord have mercy. I closed my eyes and I listened. Okay, first of all, Shadow Man at this point, I opened my eyes at one point just to be like, okay, where is he? Right here. I was laying down like this. I opened my eyes, he's right here. Just a black oval of a face right in front of me, just looking at me. Didn't have eyes, didn't have a face. It was just a black oval shape just looking at me. And this is a normal experience for sleep paralysis. This is the most common thing that you'll see in sleep paralysis is the Shadow Man. Just a guy, just a random shape of a person just watching you. So like, don't think that I'm having some kind of mental breakdown. Even if I was, like that's okay, I'll manage, but I'm not. This is a very common experience. So I close my eyes again, because I'm like, that's too spooky for me, I can't handle that. And then I start to make out a phrase in the screaming. And this is, again, the sounds of hell. And I start hearing in this raspy high voice, like, we're ready to go. Like it was like this raspy, mean, angry voice. We're ready to go. I kept saying, we're ready to go, we're ready to go, we're ready to go, over and over again. I'm like, okay, who's ready to go where? Who are you? I was trying to find meaning in the phrase for a long time. And then I realized later, now, after watching some other things, I was looking for words in there. There probably wasn't words. It was probably just hellish screaming. And I was like, I hope there's words in this, because otherwise I'm just hearing the screams of hell. And that's not very comforting. So I don't think there was words. I think I was looking for words and I heard we're ready to go, but it was just awful screaming. Anyway, then it stopped. My eyes were closed. It stopped. No sound, no nothing. I opened my eyes. Shadow Man was gone. I could move. It was fine. And I still wasn't afraid at this point. It was fine. And I almost liked it. I thought I was getting a peek into like another layer of reality or something. Because again, I think it is, I know there's explanations for it, and there's explanations for like every culture in the world having the same experience and stuff, but I just feel like it's so, I can't explain it. It's just when you're feeling it, if it's something you experience all the time and it interferes with your life, it's awful. I can imagine it's terrible and it's disruptive and it doesn't feel good. But for me, experiencing it twice, it was like I was seeing into another layer of, it just felt like I was seeing something I wasn't supposed to. And it was interesting. So then I watched this documentary a few nights ago called Nightmare, The Nightmare, and it's about sleep paralysis. And the people in this film were the kind that this was disrupting their life. It was something that traumatized them. It wasn't something interesting. It literally scared the shit out of them. And one of these people is at severe risk of dying from these sleep paralysis attacks because he can't breathe and he feels pain. And I'm like, okay, that's not cute. And they were describing these horrifying images of like these guys with red eyes, and they were threatening them and saying, we're gonna kill you. And like this big guy that would appear and be like, you know who I am, every night. And you never know, he couldn't figure out who it was. And it was like this kind of like unrest that was haunting them. Creepy. Just seeing the images and the way that they felt made me scared. And then I was thinking like, what if that trickles into my subconscious and then I have a sleep paralysis and then it's that bad and it's terrifying and then I feel pain and stuff. And then I was afraid to sleep for like 3 days. So I'm running on 6 hours of sleep over 3 days right now, and that's fine. But what happens for me is when I'm experiencing a problem in real life, I talk about it, and that makes it better for me. I talk about it online, and honestly, I think that's usually the solution for me. So me sharing this story with you is a way for me to finally be able to sleep tonight. I hope, for more than 2 hours. I don't want it to never happen again. I still think it's interesting, but the second it takes a turn into that kind of evil where it feels like I'm in danger, I don't want that happening. But if it stays with the Shadow Man and I'm hearing things that are interesting and I feel like I'm getting a glimpse into some interesting thing I'm not supposed to see, bring it on. If you have experiences with sleep paralysis, I would love to hear them in the comments. Again, read them at your own risk. There might be some seriously scary shit down there. It might also be really fluffy. So I want to hear your experiences. And if you have any tips too about how to break out of it, or if you're really, you know, a daredevil, if you have any tips on how to induce this, go for it. But like, I'm not recommending you induce this because it can be hazardous if you can't breathe or if you suffer panic attacks and that leads to your, like, just be very careful. Don't induce this if you're not 100% sure you're gonna be okay. Okay? Okay. Anyway, I'm just gonna throw this. Oh yeah. Landed on the couch. I'm a pro. Gonna join the NBA. What is it? I don't watch sports. Just remember, until next time, you are the light man. Wow, that's racist. You are not the Shadow Man. You do not traumatize people in their sleep. You are a wonderful person. I love you. I will see you again soon. I love you so much. Bye.